Have you ever been asked a simple question, "How was your weekend?" and suddenly your mind goes blank?
You know what you did, you remember your moments, but finding the right English words feels difficult.
You start thinking, what should I say first? Am I saying it correctly? What if I make a mistake?
And that small question starts to feel heavy
If you've ever felt like that, you're not alone.
because talking about your weekend sounds simple.
But it actually needs flow, confidence, and connection.
And today we're going to make it easy, calm, and natural.
Before we begin, if you want to improve your English in a peaceful and real way,
Subscribe to Calm English Talks.
and share this with a friend who is also learning English, it truly means a lot to us.
Now, take a slow breath.
And think about your last weekend.
Let's begin.
The easiest way to talk about your weekend is to start simple.
You don't need long sentences at first.
Just begin with one basic idea.
For example,
My weekend was relaxing. Say it slowly. My weekend was relaxing.
another example. My weekend was busy.
Or, my weekend was simple but nice.
These sentences are short, but they give a clear feeling.
Now, let's take one step further and add a small detail.
For example, my weekend was relaxing and I spent most of my time at home.
Say it slowly. My weekend was relaxing and I spent most of my time at home.
Another example. My weekend was busy and I had a lot of work to do.
Now, listen to this. My weekend was simple, but I enjoyed it.
These are natural sentences used in real conversations.
Now, let's talk about something important, your activities.
Because your weekend is made of small actions.
For example, I watched a movie.
I met a friend.
I stayed at home.
I went out for a walk.
Say one slowly. I went out for a walk.
Now let's connect two ideas. I watched a movie and I felt relaxed.
Say it. I watched a movie and I felt relaxed.
Another example. I met a friend and we had a good conversation.
This is how you make your English feel alive.
Now let's add feelings because feelings make your story real.
For example, I stayed at home and I felt calm and peaceful. Say it slowly. I stayed at home and I felt calm and peaceful.
Another example. I went out and I felt happy because I needed a break.
Now, listen to this. I had a simple weekend, but I felt relaxed and that made me happy.
This sentence is very natural.
I remember there were weekends when I didn't do much.
Just staying at home?
Yes, and at first I felt like I had nothing to say.
But actually, those quiet weekends have a lot of feeling.
Exactly. And when I started describing those small moments, my English improved.
Because you were speaking from your real life.
Now let's build a simple weekend story, step by step.
Listen carefully. My weekend was relaxing and I spent most of my time at home. I watched a movie and I felt calm. I also talked to a friend and it made me happy. Overall, it was a simple but nice weekend.
Take a moment and feel the flow.
This is not complicated English.
This is natural English.
Now think about your weekend.
What did you do?
How did you feel?
Was it busy or relaxing?
Answer slowly in your mind.
Even one sentence is enough.
Now say this. My weekend was simple, but I enjoyed it.
Feel the meaning.
Because when you speak like this,
You're not trying to be perfect.
you are just sharing your life.
And that's where real confidence begins.
Now take a quiet moment.
And think of one sentence about your weekend.
Say it softly,
Without fear.
without pressure.
Just one simple thought.
In English,
There is something comforting about talking about your weekend because it's your story, your time, your moments.
And when you learn how to share it in English, it doesn't feel like practice anymore.
It feels like connection.
So now let's take your weekend conversation a little deeper and make it more natural, more detailed, and more expressive.
In the beginning, you learned how to start simple. My weekend was relaxing. My weekend was busy.
Now let's expand that idea by adding more details.
For example, my weekend was relaxing and I spent most of my time at home doing small things that made me feel calm.
Say it slowly. My weekend was relaxing and I spent most of my time at home doing small things that made me feel calm.
Now another example. My weekend was busy and I had a lot of things to do, but I still tried to take some time to rest.
This sentence shows balance between activity and rest.
Now let's go deeper into your activities and describe them in a more natural way.
Instead of saying, I watched a movie,
You can say, I watched a movie and it helped me relax after a long week.
say it. I watched a movie and it helped me relax after a long week.
Another example. I met a friend and we spent some time talking, which made me feel happy.
This is how you connect action with feeling.
Now let's add time expressions because they make your story clearer.
For example, on Saturday, I stayed at home and rested.
Say it. On Saturday, I stayed at home and rested.
Another example. On Sunday, I went out for a walk and enjoyed some fresh air.
Now let's combine both days. On Saturday, I stayed at home and relaxed. And on Sunday, I went out for a short walk and enjoyed some fresh air. I also talked to a friend, and that made me feel happy.
Say it slowly. On Saturday, I stayed at home and relaxed. And on Sunday, I went out for a walk and enjoyed some fresh air.
This is how you create a clear and simple timeline.
Now, let's talk about something important, expressing your overall feeling.
Because your weekend is not just what you did.
It's how you felt about it.
For example, overall, I felt relaxed and happy with how I spent my weekend.
Say it. Overall, I felt relaxed and happy with how I spent my weekend.
Another example. Overall, it was a simple weekend, but I enjoyed it.
Now, listen to this. Even though my weekend was busy, I felt satisfied because I completed my work.
This sentence shows effort and reward.
Now, let's build a longer, natural weekend description.
Listen carefully. My weekend was quite relaxing, and I spent most of my time at home. On Saturday, I watched a movie and took some rest, which helped me feel calm. On Sunday, I went out for a short walk and enjoyed the fresh air. I also talked to a friend, and that made me feel happy. Overall, it was a simple weekend, but I really enjoyed it.
Take a moment and feel the flow of this.
This is not difficult English.
This is connected English.
Now, think about your own weekend again.
What did you do on Saturday?
What did you do on Sunday?
How did you feel?
Try to answer these slowly in English.
Even if your sentences are simple, that's okay.
Because clarity is more important than complexity.
Now say this one sentence softly. My weekend was simple, and I took time to relax and feel calm.
Feel the meaning of it.
Because when you speak like this,
You are not trying to impress.
you are expressing your life.
And slowly,
You become more comfortable
more confident
and more natural,
in English.
one sentence at a time,
One weekend at a time.
in a calm
Clear
and meaningful way.
in English. There is a moment when talking about your weekend stops feeling like practice and starts feeling like storytelling.
Yes, when you don't just list what you did.
But you begin to share your experience, your thoughts, your small emotions.
And that's where your English becomes more natural, more human, more real.
So now let's go deeper and learn how to talk about your weekend in a more expressive and connected way.
Let's begin with something simple, adding reasons to your sentences.
Because when you say why, your English becomes richer.
For example, I stayed at home because I needed some rest.
Say it slowly. I stayed at home because I needed some rest.
Another example, I went out for a walk because I wanted some fresh air.
Now listen to this. I met a friend because I hadn't seen them in a long time.
These sentences feel more complete, more meaningful.
Now let's add contrast using simple words like but.
For example, my weekend was busy, but I still enjoyed it.
Say it. My weekend was busy, but I still enjoyed it.
Another example, I wanted to relax, but I had some work to finish.
This shows real life because not everything goes as planned.
Now let's go deeper and talk about small moments.
Because your weekend is not just big activities.
It's also the little things.
For example, I sat quietly for some time and it helped me feel calm.
Say it slowly. I sat quietly for some time, and it helped me feel calm.
Another one. I spent some time thinking about my week and it made me feel more clear.
These are simple but powerful expressions.
I remember one weekend I didn't do anything special.
Just a quiet weekend.
Yes, I stayed at home, I rested, I thought about things.
And how did it feel?
At first, I thought it was boring, but later I realized it was peaceful.
That's beautiful, because sometimes the simplest weekends are the most meaningful.
And when you talk about those moments, your English becomes deeper.
Now let's learn how to connect your ideas smoothly.
Use words like and, so, because, but.
For example, I stayed at home and I watched a movie, so I felt relaxed.
Say it. I stayed at home and I watched a movie, so I felt relaxed.
Another example, I was a bit tired, but I still went out because I wanted a change.
This is natural spoken English.
Now let's build a longer, more expressive weekend story.
Listen carefully. My weekend was quite simple, but it was meaningful. On Saturday, I stayed at home because I felt tired and I wanted to rest. I watched a movie and spent some time quietly, and it helped me feel calm. On Sunday, I decided to go out for a walk because I needed some fresh air, and it made me feel refreshed. I also talked to a friend, and that made me happy. Overall, it was not a very busy weekend, but I really enjoyed it because I felt relaxed and peaceful.
Take a moment and feel the rhythm of this.
This is how your English becomes storytelling.
Not just information.
Now, think about your own weekend again.
Why did you do what you did?
How did you feel in those moments?
What small things made your weekend special?
Try to answer these slowly in English.
Even if your answers are not perfect.
They are real.
Now, say this one sentence softly.
My weekend was simple, but it gave me time to relax and think.
Feel the meaning behind it.
Because when you speak like this,
You're not just learning English.
you are learning how to express your life.
And slowly,
You begin to speak
with ease,
with calmness,
with confidence,
one story at a time,
one weekend at a time.
in a real, natural, and meaningful way in English. There is something special that happens when you begin to notice your weekends more closely.
Not just what you did, but how each moment felt, what you learned, what stayed with you.
And when you bring those small reflections into your English,
Your speaking becomes deeper, more personal, more real.
so now let's go one step further and learn how to talk about your weekend with reflection, emotion, and meaning.
Let's begin with something simple, talking about what you learned from your weekend.
For example, I realized that I need more rest, so I tried to slow down this weekend.
Say it slowly. I realized that I need more rest, so I tried to slow down this weekend.
Another example, I learned that taking small breaks helps me feel better.
This shows awareness,
Now let's talk about expectations and reality.
because sometimes your weekend doesn't go as planned.
You can say, I planned to go out, but I decided to stay at home because I felt tired.
Say it. I planned to go out, but I decided to stay at home because I felt tired.
Another example, I wanted to relax, but I had some work to finish, so my weekend was a bit busy.
This is very real. Very honest.
Now, let's move to something deeper, talking about how your weekend affected you.
For example, my weekend helped me feel refreshed and ready for the new week.
Say it slowly. My weekend helped me feel refreshed and ready for the new week.
Another example, my weekend was simple, but it gave me time to think and feel calm.
These sentences show impact, not just action.
Now, let's talk about something emotional again, because emotions create connection.
You can say, I felt a little stressed at first, but later I felt calm and relaxed.
Say it. I felt a little stressed at first, but later I felt calm and relaxed.
Another example, I didn't do anything special, but I felt peaceful, and that was enough for me.
This is a very meaningful sentence.
I remember a weekend when I had many plans.
And things didn't go as expected?
Yes, I couldn't do everything, and at first I felt disappointed.
And then?
Then I slowed down. I rested, and by the end of the weekend, I felt calm.
That's a beautiful shift from expectation to acceptance.
And when you express that in English, your sentences become powerful.
Now, let's build a deeper weekend reflection, step by step.
Listen carefully. My weekend didn't go exactly as I planned because I had more work than I expected. At first, I felt a little stressed, but I decided to take things slowly. I stayed at home, finished some tasks, and also took some time to rest. I didn't do anything special, but I felt calm by the end of the weekend. I realized that sometimes simple moments are enough, and that helped me feel more relaxed and ready for the week.
Take a moment and feel how real this sounds.
This is not perfect English.
This is honest English.
Now, think about your own weekend again.
Did everything go as planned?
What did you learn?
How did you feel at the end?
Answer these slowly in English.
Even if your sentences are simple.
They carry meaning.
Now say this sentence softly. My weekend was not perfect, but it helped me feel calm and ready for a new week.
Feel the truth in it.
Because when you speak like this,
You are not just describing your weekend.
you are sharing your experience.
And slowly,
You begin to speak with depth,
in honesty,
in confidence,
one thought at a time,
one reflection at a time,
in a calm
natural,
and meaningful way.
in English.
There is something gentle about looking back at your weekend. Not to judge it, not to compare it, but simply to understand it.
To notice the small moments, the quiet feelings, the simple experiences that made it yours.
And now, you don't just remember your weekend.
You can express it calmly, clearly in English.
At the beginning, it felt difficult.
Maybe even uncomfortable,
You didn't know what to say.
or how to say it,
But step by step,
sentence by sentence.
you started building your voice.
A simple voice,
A real voice.
your voice,
Now you can talk about your weekend not just with words.
but with feeling.
Let's bring everything together one last time in a calm and natural way.
Listen carefully. My weekend was quite simple, but it was meaningful in its own way. I had some plans, but not everything went as expected, and that was okay. I spent some time at home, rested, and did a few small things that helped me feel calm. I also took some time to think and reflect, and that made me feel more clear. By the end of the weekend, I felt relaxed and ready to start a new week. Even though it was not perfect, I appreciated those quiet moments.
Take a moment and let that settle in your mind.
This is not difficult English.
This is natural English.
Built from your life, your thoughts, your feelings.
I remember when I used to think I need big words to sound good.
But then I realized simple words spoken honestly are more powerful.
Because people don't connect with perfect English.
They connect with real feelings.
And now you have that ability
To speak simply,
to express clearly.
to share your story.
Now, think about your next conversation.
Someone asks you, "How was your weekend?"
And instead of feeling nervous,
You pause, take a breath,
and say,
My weekend was simple, but I enjoyed it. I took some time to rest and I felt calm by the end of it.
That's enough.
That's real.
And that is confidence.
Now, say this final sentence softly. I can talk about my weekend in English, and I feel more confident every day.
Feel the truth in it.
Because this journey,
Is not about being perfect.
it's about showing up
Trying again.
and growing slowly.
Thank you for spending this calm time with us.
Keep practicing, keep expressing, and keep believing in yourself.
And if this helped you, don't forget to subscribe.
And share this with someone who is also learning English.
We would love to hear from you.
Tell us in the comments, how was your weekend?
And keep learning with us.
Thank you for watching.